So section 6.6, general form of the equation for a linear relation. The general form, as noted, is right here. ax plus by plus c is equal to 0 is the general form of the equation of a line where a, b, and c are integers and a is positive. Now, integers means no decimals, no fractions, okay? As well as a has to be positive. So we'll play around a little bit with a couple of examples of getting equations into general form. Now, sometimes general form's a little bit easier, other times not so much. So you'll have to take your pick, but you'll get questions in which it specifies slope-intercept, specifies point-slope, and slope-point, and specifies general form. You might even come across questions in which it asks about standard form. Now, standard form's a different one. Standard form of an equation of a line is ax plus by is equal to c. But a is still positive, and of course a, b, and c are integers. So you can see there's a slight little difference here. This is equal to 0 with c on the other side of the equal sign. This one is equal to c. Okay? So we're just going to be looking at general form today. Okay, general form. First example, write the equation of the line y is equal to negative 3x plus 5 in general form. Now, general form, we need everything on one side of the equal sign. So that's what it says here. Move all terms to the left-hand side of the equal sign. There's a couple of ways we could do this question, but if we're going to manipulate this from where it is, let's look at it this way. Y is equal to negative 3x plus 5. I want both of these terms on the other side of the equal sign, so I have 0 here. So I have to do opposite operations. I'm going to add 3x, and I'm going to subtract 5. Because I do it on one side of the equal sign, I have to do it on the other side of the equal sign. Add 3x and subtract 5. What does that give me? That gives me y plus 3x minus 5, and then these cancel on this side, leaving me with 0. Now I just have to make sure that my x term comes first and that it's positive. So I just rearrange this. 3x plus y minus 5 equals 0. And that's it. Now, working in general form, you could also compare equations. So if I had two equations in general form, I'd be able to look at them and compare to see if they were or were not the same equation. But that's about all you'd be able to ask in a situation like that. In slope-intercept form, you could at least ask about the slope, and you could at least ask about the y-intercept. So a little bit more flexibility and comparison tools there. Second example, write the equation of the line y is equal to negative 1 over 2x plus 3 in general form. First thing, remove the fraction. We remove the fraction by multiplying each term in the equation by the denominator of the fraction. Okay, there's another way we could talk about doing all of that too, but sometimes it's a little bit more confusing. So we multiply everything by that. So let's first start with our equation. Y is equal to negative 1 over 2x plus 3. And I multiply everything in the equation by the denominator. So there's our denominator. I'm going to multiply this by 2. I'm going to multiply this by 2. And I'm going to multiply this by 2. Each of these terms I multiply by 2. So 2 times y becomes 2y. 2 times negative 1 over 2 becomes negative 2 over 2 x, and then 2 times 3 becomes 6. Now look what happens with our fraction here. Negative 2 over 2 reduces. This becomes negative x plus 6, or negative 1x. The next step, move everything to the left-hand side of the equal sign. So I'm going to say, well, I'm going to go plus x and minus 6. Do the opposite functions. I'm going to go plus x and minus 6. Both sides of the equal sign. It's going to give me 2y plus x minus 6 is equal to, these cancel, leaves me with 0. and then rearrange so that x comes first. And then, of course, you would have to figure out whether or not x was positive, and in this case it is. Let me give you a quick example of what happens if x is negative. So let's say you've done all of that work, you've done your rearranging, and you end up with something like this: negative 3x plus 2y minus 4 is equal to 0. There's my standard form of an equation of a line that I've gotten after I've rearranged everything. I'm not quite done though, because I can't have a negative value of x. So I need to get rid of that. And I do that by changing the signs of everything in the equation. I change this negative to a positive. This becomes 3x. I change this positive to a negative. It becomes 2y. And I change this negative to a positive. It becomes 4. 0. It's simply, basically, you multiply this whole entire side of the equal sign by negative 1, and you multiply the other side of the equal sign by negative 1. But of course, when we multiply, that's a multiplication. Let me change that x to a dot. Multiply by negative 1. And it essentially flips your signs of every term. So that's what you would do if you did end up with an x value that was negative that you needed to change to be positive. Second example, or the rest of the examples possibly in the next video.